Welcome to the Homestead. I wish this was going to be an upbeat video, but it's not. We've got a serious bee problem. We've got a horrible hive beetle infestation. I'm going to treat for varroa mites today and show you how to do that. And we took some really bad advice from another YouTuber, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So I'm already down one hive. It was completely destroyed by hive beetles. The bees took off. They're completely gone. I never found them. The next hive, the one you see on the end right there, doesn't have much activity. And it had a little bit of activity the other day, but I'm fearing they are gone. The one right there, the 10 frame that's in the middle of those three, has a lot of activity going on, but it's covered in ants. Before I show you the three methods we are using to treat hive beetles and the vaporizer we are going to use to treat the varroa mites, I got to talk about, there was one bee channel I was following. I'm not going to mention the name. It's a big channel. They suggested I don't disturb them for at least 30 days. Well, 30 days is a very long period of time, I guess you could say, to not check your hives, because even though they're in full sun, which is good to prevent or help prevent hive beetles, those hive beetles come on really fast. They were in there probably within the first couple of weeks, I'm assuming, because I didn't open them for 30 days. And once I got to my really strong 10 frame that was on the end, that's the one that I purchased 8 frames from CNC Farms. She put the 8 frames in there, and then there was a hive feeder. I took that hive feeder out after the month and looked. I didn't really see anything. The next week, almost all the bees were completely gone. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And I looked in the other two and I saw a couple of hive beetles. So immediately I grabbed some treatment, and I'll show you that treatment in a minute. I'm a little flustered today. It's kind of irritating, but it's a live and learn lesson, right? I'm new to bees, and I'm not here saying that I know everything about bees. I did a good amount of research, like with anything I do, and there's a lot of differing methods and differing opinions out there on bees, but I'm going to tell you right now, check your bees often. And I mean, don't totally disturb them, take out every frame, but check your bees and treat for hive beetles. They're horrible here in the south right now, especially in East Texas. That's what Connie from CNC Farms said. She said a lot of the farmers are even having a lot of trouble with hive beetles. I'm trying my hardest to keep that one last hive alive and healthy. But there's a problem. So it's partially my fault. I didn't understand how much you needed to feed them at the beginning. I figured that there was enough flowers and enough things blooming out here in this area, and there still is right now, for the bees. And apparently that's just not true. So to keep the hive strong, I added the feeders back onto these. I had added a frame feeder in the one on the end that you see, and a top hive feeder on that one. But that's caused another issue. Ants. Ants are horrible here in Texas, and ants were just all over. They're still all over that top feeder right there. So I grabbed some orange oil. I'm trying to mix that with water and just spray the ants that are on the outside, and soak the ground with the orange oil on the outside. Usually that works for ant hills. So I'm going to pop these open, show you the 3 methods of treating hive beetles, and then I'm going to treat them for the mites, because the mites can weaken the bees so much so that they can't combat the hive beetles. If it's a strong hive, they can combat the hive beetles. So with the first hive, which was the strongest, I'm assuming that they also had mites, and I did not treat them for mites right away. So we're about 2 months in, and I'm having to treat for mites now. So if you get the mites under control, hopefully the bees will get the hive beetles under control, along with your efforts to get the hive beetles under control. And seriously, I don't know what to do about the ants in the sugar syrup. The ants are so bad. I don't know what I'm going to find when I open up this middle one. and the bees seem a little irritated. Even though it's in the middle of the day, they should be out. There shouldn't be as many bees here. They should be out and about, but they're just not. They're probably trying to combat everything. I don't hear anything going on in this hive. There are no bees up in this super. I probably added it too quickly. But there's nothing up here for anybody to get, including hive beetles. Here's our first treatment for hive beetles, and I'll show you. You can see this is a Swiffer sheet. So it catches hive beetles pretty well, and the bees chew on it. And you can buy these cloths, like bee cloths like this, but just buy a Swiffer sheet. They're way cheaper. This captures the hive beetles, the little barbs on their legs, and they cannot get out of the trap of the Swiffer. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to work really that much. I think the hive was too far gone. Now we've got these little hive beetle traps, and inside here we've got boric acid tablets. Now I heard this was a good method, but it didn't seem to do much. I put these in here not too long after I saw the hive beetles. They're still in there. Didn't do much. Not happy about that. There's a couple of bees flying around here, but I'm assuming they're from the other hive, and they're just trying to salvage maybe something that was in here, but the queen is gone. The hive feeder is empty. There's a lot of dead bees in that hive feeder, or the frame feeder. That's why I don't like frame feeders. Looks like there's a few cells with pollen in it, but everything is turned black, and I think that's from the hive beetles. There's nothing left in here. There's only maybe 20 bees in this whole thing. But they can scavenge all they want. I don't see any hive beetles, honestly, but the bees still left. So maybe they had left earlier before I put the other treatment in there. Not sure. They barely moved onto this outside frame before they took off. They just barely got any comb drawn on this outside one, which was a new one. This was not from the nuke. Those middle ones I just pulled out were from the nuke that I bought. I guess this is beekeeping. I don't know. Okay, we've cracked into the new hive. I'm going to show you that other hive beetle trap that we have. It's this. It's a reservoir which you put this oil into, and the hive beetles drop down through the top here. The bees can't get in there. They go through the top, they drown in the oil, and they can't get out. So that's what we're going to use in addition to the Swiffer Sweeper sheet and the boric acid trap that doesn't really work that we have in here. So we're going to try to keep this last hive that's alive healthy and alive until I can split them, or I don't know. So here's something very unfortunate. They already ran out of the sugar syrup, but somehow a ton of bees drowned in here. And the ants, I don't know what they're doing. They're all over the hive. Maybe they're in their honey. And yeah, so I'm going to need to get this cleaned out of the dead bees and get them some more food. And of course that's going to attract more ants, but there's nothing really that I can do about it. So we've got a serious ant problem. They are out of control in here, and you can see there's no drawn comb on these frames that I put in there. It's just our nuke, and maybe a little drawn comb on this one right here, and a little on this side of this one, maybe on this one. But there's hardly any activity. There's a lot of bees still, but I don't know if the queen's still here. I don't know what's going on, but these ants are driving them crazy. I don't know how to get rid of the ants. Hopefully, maybe the hive beetle trap will attract some ants, and I'm gonna place that down in between two frames. All right, to keep these guys strong, I knocked the dead bees out of there, and we're gonna put some more syrup in here for them, and hopefully, oh great. As soon as I pour it in, one bee gets stuck in there and is starting to drown. Come on. Come on, get out. There you go. Okay. So to treat the mites, we're going to use oxalic acid and a vaporizer. This vaporizer connects via these two alligator clamps to your battery, or to a 12-volt battery. Mine is on the lawnmower, so I back the lawnmower up as close as I can get it, and hopefully that reaches, so I might have to back it up a little more. Be careful of this stuff. Do not breathe in the vapors, and do not let it touch your skin. I've already let it, I had a little rip in the bag and it touched my skin, it burned my skin. So use a mask, and also use glasses or goggles, and use some gloves when handling this stuff. In that vaporizer, you are only going to use 1/4 of a teaspoon for a deep, an 8-frame deep. I guess that they say you can use it for a 10-frame deep too, but so we're going to put tiny bit over 1/4 of a teaspoon. We're going to shove it in where the entrance reducer is and cover that with a towel. So the bees aren't going to like that very much, and we're going to have to let it sit in there for about 4 minutes. That's how long it's going to take this to heat up and to start vaporizing the oxalic acid that we're going to put in here, the powder. You should only need 1 treatment per every 6 months, but check your hives regularly for mites. And unfortunately, I only have 1 hive that has a screen bottom with a bottom board. And that is used, and I think I'm going to switch all of them. That's used to check your mite count after you've treated and see how many mites are in there. So that's something I do need to invest in the near future, but let's get this done. So here we got our vaporizer. We're close enough to the hive. Put it in the reservoir right there. This entrance reducer is too small. I'm going to have to lift up the hive with the hive tool and shove it in there. There we go. It really had that strongly connected in there. Maybe the oxalic acid will also hurt the ants that are in there. We're going to do our timer for 4 minutes, and that should be good for the treatment on the hive. Our timer is done. Let's pull it out. It's completely gone. Well, there you go. That's how you treat for varroa mites, and one of those methods works for hive beetles. The Swiffer sheet seems to work really well, but check your hives often. That's my opinion, but I'm not a professional beekeeper. But the professional beekeeper I took advice from, nope, wrong. And if anybody out there can tell me what to do with these ants, I'd really appreciate it. I know some of you have been keeping bees for a while, and I appreciate all the advice on things that I don't know about. What's frustrating about this is usually if I try something and I study first on how to do it, I'm almost always successful at doing it. And this is one thing that I haven't been successful at. So maybe that's an ego punch, I don't know. But it's just frustrating because the bees died and they're very important. So they went somewhere else. Hopefully they're not all completely dead and they are making a new hive somewhere. All right, have a beautiful, blessed day. We'll see you next time.